now.
So we have to about the question. That's great.
But you can reuse them, right?
Anything like that. Okay. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So it all. Okay. Wow. That's awesome. Congratulations. That's awesome. So when?
Mike.
Go ahead.
All right, guys. Welcome to Bagels and Business. My name is Bryce Hanson. I'm with the Small Business Development Center, and we're here at the Mill, located at the Salt Lake Community College Miller campus. The Mill is a co-working space, and there's some offices here as well. It's a great place. One of the first co-working spaces in the Salt Lake Valley, if I remember, about 15 years ago it started. Great place. So if you're looking to have a spot for your business outside of your home, your startup, or you're already established, it's a great place to look. So I just want to let you know what this is about. Every month there's a Bagels and Business. Third Tuesday, right? Third Tuesday of every month. We have a great, we have some other one coming up next month. Curtis Morley talking about his new book and some really cool stuff. It's called The Entrepreneur's Paradox. And today we're going to hear from Tim Cooley. He has a book called The Pitch Deck Book. He's an expert in fundraising for your startup, your tech, a lot of times with technology and software and other things, but just generally just great knowledge base for how to pitch investors. And so the Pitch Deck book is really kind of a specialized component of that, of how to really create a killer pitch for pitching investors, and what are the things that you need to watch out for. What are the things? How should you approach it? So just an all-around great info. And Tim Cooley's been in the entrepreneurial space for about 10 years. I met him probably 7 or 8 years ago. He had something called Step Pets as a software. I can't remember exactly what happened there, but he's done a number of other startup ventures. And just like a lot of us, who are in the entrepreneurial space, some more successful than others, and that's part of the process, right? That's why you do what we do, so you find that one thing that really takes off. And he has some really interesting experiences. So a great person to talk with. He's the general manager of the Park City Angel Network, and they're one of the most active angel groups in the United States. And he also is the vice president of ViaCap, who help people get funding for their companies. So just great all-around resource. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Tim. He's going to take it from here.
Cool. Thanks, Bryce.
Yeah.
Sweet. So I'm going to show you guys how to pitch like a pro. That was the title, so I'm going to use it. But yeah, a little bit of background on me, and Bryce is already going to give you, a lot of things that I've done. But my career really started running a seed program at the University of Utah called Get Seeded. Basically, it was a grant seed fund. We had $150K to give out to students, and we ended up funding something like 300 companies in the 2.5 years that I was part of that group. That program still exists today. It's literally the best funding source if you're a student. But anyway, so that's where I got started, helping people practice pitching and all that stuff. Then I came to the Mill a couple years later, which is an accelerator, and I ran that for a while. And then, like Bryce mentioned, I'm also the executive director for Park City Angels, and I've worked on a ton of different ideas. That's just a couple of them. So recently I launched the Pitch Deck book. I wanted to take all the information that I've gathered over the last couple of years and condense it into some ways that other people can do what I was doing. And I'm going to run you guys through how to put together a pitch. Okay, so here's a couple things. So keep these things in mind. So the first thing is that investors want to put money into your business. When I was raising capital initially, I was like, man, they never want to, they're just there to hear something. But the reality is they want to put money in. That's how they make more money. That's why they're listening to you. So if you've made it to a point where an investor's actually like taking your conversation, you're already in this yes mentality. And so your job is to stay in that yes mentality. Everything you do, from the way you communicate before, after, and during, it can put them into the no. but keep in mind you're already in the yes. So that's already a win for us. Secondly, and this is kind of more of a pet peeve, but investors are smart. You have no idea how many deals they've seen, what their history is typically, what they saw the day before. The reality is you don't know what they know. So if you're getting pushback in a presentation, there's a reason for that. If you really know they don't know what they're talking about, give them the moment to ask their question or say their comment, and then ask them to take it offline. You never want to be in a forum where you're arguing. So just kind of roll with that. As you put together your pitch, you want to keep it all very, very high level. You do not need details. If you are a scientist, it is really common with science products or bio, things like that. When you're pitching normal investors and not scientists, you do not need to go into the science. I do not care what a DNA riboflavin something is. I don't care. I just want to know, is there a market? Can you sell into it? So again, keep a high level. I'll show you how to do all that throughout this presentation. The next thing is let them ask questions. You want them to ask questions. By keeping your presentation high level, you give them opportunity to think and to question what you're saying, and that's actually a really good thing. Do not memorize your presentation. You come off, we've probably all seen this on Shark Tank, but if I memorize my presentation and I forget a word and then it throws me off, that it does nobody any good. Secondly, with that is do not bring note cards. You look very unprepared when you're reading on a note card. And more times than not, what ends up happening is you'll read 3 or 4 slides ahead and you'll forget to change. So you just get lost in it should just be a conversation, okay? And then no animations. Animations are like when you have things appear or it'll fade from one slide to the next. We are not magicians. We don't need to be magicians, just show everything. There's no need to do all that stuff. More times than not, what happens is a person will either over talk their bullet points or they'll actually talk them out of order. Unless you are a stud presenter, which is very few of us, animations actually usually backfire. So don't do that. And then your pitch should flow like a story, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. Okay, so every slide is the answer to a question, okay? The very first question is, why are you here? Okay, so at Park City Angels, we use an overview slide. It looks like this. So the company name, a little short description about it, how much money you're seeking, company ownership, and then use of funds. If you're going to use a summary slide, do not spend more than 5 seconds on this slide. So it should sound like, hey guys, my name's Tim. I have this company. It's doing cool stuff. We're raising 500K. Cool, let me tell you about what we're up to. That's as long as that slide needs to be. But what's doing is you're bookending the presentation and you're giving them time to either say that they're in or they're out. If your valuation is crazy, then the person's already going to be out and they'll listen, but now you have to bring them back into the conversation. It's just a really good slide to tell them what they're about to hear. Secondly is your next slide should always be the problem that you're trying to solve. So what problem needs solved? And this is the way that you put together a slide. What I want to know is how you became aware of this problem in the world. So do you have experience with it? Did you join a team? So for example, if maybe I'm a person who licensed technology from a university, you're like, my friend Kevin was doing this thing and I really liked it. And I actually have a background in this space. And so this is how I became aware of this problem. Then what you're gonna do is you're gonna use some kind of data to back up how many people have this problem. So data or some visuals or something like that, but you're gonna use some kind of visual tool to reinforce the problem that you just talked about. And I wanna be very cautious of this. Most people who struggle, especially in the physical product world, you really go to social needs. So for example, hunger. This is not the problem in the world. If you sell shoes to solve hunger, that's never correlatable, right? That's a marketing message for other people, but the reason why we wear shoes is to stop stepping on stuff, right? I mean, that is the very basic function. Then they get more complicated than that. But shoes will never solve hunger. It's just, they're not correlated. So keep it in mind, you're solving some problem in the world. You're gonna use some kind of visual. And then, how do you solve that problem. So you just told me something exists in the world that shouldn't. A lot of people have this issue. And so you're going to show me how you solve that, right? You can do it a couple different ways. You can hand it out. You can do like some kind of screenshots. If you have a physical product, definitely bring it if it's in person. If it's virtual, then what you're going to do is maybe you can demonstrate it on the thing. 1,000% avoid video. I've seen probably 1,000 or so pitches. I've only seen one time where a video actually added value. A video is just a bunch of pictures, so you can actually just use pictures instead of a video. The reason why I don't like video is our primary jobs are not videographers, so we can't tell story with video. And so usually the video is too long. It doesn't get to what you need to say quick enough. And most of the time it doesn't even work. So if it's not embedded properly, you don't have connection to Wi-Fi or whatever. So avoid this so that you can keep the story going. And like I said, show, don't tell. Demonstrate the product right here some way. And make sure that when you talk about the solution, that it's the opposite of the problem you just mentioned, right? So like, for example, use our shoes. Like the whole world, everybody keeps stepping on rocks. I created this thing so people could stop stepping on rocks. Like it should be that clear. Problem to solution. Okay. So how do you get paid? Okay. Glad you asked. It's very simple. It costs 50 bucks. It costs us $20 to make. Here's some other details about it, but it's a very simple slide. I just want to know how you make money. Believe it or not, more often, a lot of people actually don't have this slide in their deck, or it's not this clear. Okay, so what does the future look like? Okay, it's just some projections. What's unique about a slide like this is actually nobody cares what your numbers are. They may care about like these two, but really what they're doing is checking your ability to do math. So what they're going to look at is this number, and then they're going to correlate that number to how many people in the world will buy this slide right here. And I'll show you how these connect. So TAM stands for your total addressable market. This is everybody in the whole wide world who might buy your product, that could theoretically buy it. SAM is your serviceable addressable market. This is kind of the group that you're going after initially. And then service obtainable market is the ones you're actually trying to sell to. So these are the ones, if you're going to pick up a phone to call somebody, it's this group of people. This number, and I'm going to go backwards, and this number have to be relatable. So if this number is, let's say, 5 million, this number can't be 5 million. That means you owned your entire market in 5 years and no one will believe you, right? So what it should be is some percent smaller than that. So for example, if this is 50 million, this group that we're going after, and I said in 5 years, I'm gonna have 5 million of the market, in my brain, I'm like, he's saying he can get 10% of the market share in 5 years. I don't believe you. You can see how closely those two numbers, and we speed through these slides, but this is what's happening on the back end. Okay. Cool. So who else is doing something similar, right? You just told me how big the market is. You told me this problem. There's a bunch of people that have this problem. I see how clearly it is. So there's got to be other people in the world that are having a similar problem. This is as simple as the slide that you need to show this. There are a couple other versions, and I highly don't recommend them. I recommend just a checkmark system. This is called an I love me slide. It's got all the check boxes that tell you how much greater you are than everybody else. What's really unique about this slide is whatever features are right here. So this feature should be the exact same as your problem slide, right? Or your solution. Like you're gonna reiterate your solution with these three things. And then if you have other feature sets or other cool like widget things that it'll do, that's what all these other bullet points are for. But only the ones that you're like really need this product for in that first two slides should be right there. There should be those first couple. Okay, so what have you done so far? So I work with angel groups. I really want to know what you've done today. So if it's still an idea, the odds of you getting funding are pretty low, but I still want to know what you've done up to this point. And so you can use a very simple don't use this one, but something similar to this where it says, back in 1999, I did this, and then here we are, I got a patent in 2020, whatever. So you can show me the progression of all major events that show you that this business is either A, validated, or that you can get clients, right? So that's what I want to know, and this is up until today. And then the next slide, so what's next is where are you going? So I want to know from today, you moving forward, what are the major milestones you're going to get with funding? So make sure you're like, with the money that we're going to do these 3 things. And this slide will come back again soon. So let's walk through everything. We've kind of gone through this quick. So we've stated our problem super clear. We've mapped out, how we're going to solve that problem. It's clear how we're going to make money, that there's a big market for this. We've already proven it a little bit with our traction. We've got some clear milestones. That's actually why we need the funding. And then what I want to know is who's all going to make this happen. So this is your team slide. This team slide is super important in really one way. As a CEO or as an entrepreneur, you need to prove that you can recruit people to your team that have the skills that you don't have. So, and for this venture. So you have these 3 people, they should be like your C-suite. And there's many ways of putting this slide together. But what I want to know is that person, their title, and what they've accomplished in the past that is going to make this venture take off, right? If, for example, you're doing an e-commerce product and nobody on your team has e-commerce experience, you need to be honest about that in this slide. So you might say, question mark, we need a marketing person. We still have sales, but we're just not that great at it. That's actually one of the reasons why we need money, is to bring on this certain person. In the meantime, I have an advisor who's been helping us, right? So I already have somebody who's been teaching us or telling us what to do. But we don't have that person dedicated to the team yet. What a lot of people do as well is they'll talk about their advisor team, and you really don't need to. I don't know who those people are, unless it's someone like Mark Zuckerberg or somebody huge. The reality is I don't know who these people are. So it's nice to know that you have an advisory board, that you're not doing this by yourself. But the reality is don't spend much time on them unless somebody is either really, really well known or they're filling a gap in the space that you're missing an employee. That's the only time I would talk about an advisor. Okay, so the next question is, how do I, investor, make more money? Okay, that's the whole point of this, right? I know how much you need, right? Okay, so what you're going to tell me is really the exit at this point. So here are a bunch of companies who acquired some other companies that are similar to us for some dollar amount. The other opportunities are down here, like these kind of companies could acquire us as well. So if you're not planning to be acquired, then you need to let people know, or you're like, hey, look, we have 3 options. We can either sell this off, we can take it IPO. It really depends on where we're going. Another thing that you can do in the opportunity slide is you can talk about other markets that you're trying to go into. So when we were talking earlier about the TAM, SAM, and SOM, we're very focused on the person who has this problem. But what we might say is like, look, so yeah, this works really well for basketball players, but we're going to actually start moving into track once we get a certain threshold of sales or whatever. So you can use all 3 of those kinds of things in this opportunity area. Okay, and then the final slide is just a reminder. This is actually the last slide that you're going to have. So it's a reminder sentence of what the company is, the name of it, and then what you do. You're going to remind them on how much you're asking for, and then you're going to tell them what the use of funds are, and then remind them what the milestones are that you're trying to accomplish. And remember, this is the what's next slide. So really, it's repeating the very, very first slide. You're going to give as much detail about the ask as you can. There's no reason to hold any information back. So like, we're on a convertible note, it's 7% interest, we're capping it at 5 million, whatever the thing's going to be. But you want all the details here. And you will leave this slide. This will be your last one. It's very common for us as we go through school to learn how to do like a thank you slide or a contact slide or something along those lines. But in a pitch presentation, the last slide gets the most airtime. And so it's better for the investors to keep reading over this slide over and over and over in their brain. And then they're going to be like, oh yeah, I have a question about that because all the information is here. And so with that, I'm going to end on the thank you slide. Yeah, so anyways, yeah, so ask questions.
So what is the average time that they're pitching?
So depending on the group, you might have, so for us, for Park City Angels, we have a 15-minute presentation during a screening, and that's all the time that you get. And then our general meeting is a 20-minute. Some groups will give you up to 30, but what you really want to do is be anywhere between 8 and 12 minutes. If you do a high level enough job, then you should get questions that will fill that time and beyond. Like what you want people to do is be like, we gotta go, because you want to get to the meeting. Like the whole point of a pitch is not to get funded, by the way. I should have said that at the beginning. The goal of a pitch presentation is to get to the next meeting. So that's what you're trying to do. If they've got tons of questions, you're like, yeah, let's just meet up again. Totally cool. Makes sense? So yeah, 8 to 12. Usually people, if you can get right at 10, you're gold. And if you do it this way, you should. It should be pretty easy.
So what funds are you seeing people are asking for? I mean, like amounts. Do you have a certain amount or a high cap or?
Yeah. So for us, for Park City Angels, we look at deals around, the person is usually raising between $250,000 to maybe about 3. But the group itself isn't funding the whole thing on any of those. So we might come in and put in so in an angel group, they're funding individuals or putting money in themselves. So they might put 10,000, 50, 100K individually. So they're only going to fill part of that round. Does that make sense? So yeah, usually less than like 3 million. Because again, angel investing is the most risky investing. So they're looking for a really, really big return.
And then how fast?
Everyone's goal is 3 to 5. And it takes about 10, but everybody wants 3 to 5.
You have a question over here, but I think it's the same. How much equity do angel investors or VCs ask for on the average?
Yeah, so every round of funding is on average, about 15%. So it doesn't matter how much money you raise, you're usually giving up about 15%.
Is that's in a seed round or a first round or?
All of them.
15%?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like 15 if you're going to go for a seed to Series A, and then you're going to go, your Series A is 15%, or 10 to 15, 10 to 15 on the next one. So every time it's almost works out to be about that much.
So when you talk about Series A and Series, what does that mean?
Yeah, so there's different levels of funding, and it's based on product development. So the first funding I call pre-seed. So it's just an idea. Pre-seed means just an idea, maybe it's on paper. And so what you're trying to do is get to the physical product. So something you can touch and see or you interact with. At that phase, it's called seed funding. So the product exists, you still haven't really sold it to anybody, but it's out there for testing basically. So then I call it post-seed. So your product exists, you have some people buying it, but you really haven't figured out or dialed into who your market is. And so post-seed is all of those are all seed funding. Series A is your product's out in the market, you really know who you're selling to is, and now you actually need to put fuel on the fire to sell to that market. And then usually a Series B is your changing verticals. So you already know how to dial in your first product, you might be launching a new one, but now you're taking the company from just a kind of a lifestyle business to you're going to do something special. And then every follow-on round is just to amplify the B. Basically. And in the B, what really happens is they buy out all the other investors. And so they restart the whole cap table, which is awesome. That's what everybody wants.
What are you tending to see more of? Is it more technology, technical, or food, or and what do they tend to look more favorable towards?
Yeah, so everybody prefers technology because it can scale, but if it's the right deal, the right company, and the right people, it doesn't matter. We've seen some really cool deals that are in like the social services space. physical products, like gummies. CBD is huge right now. Utah doesn't invest a lot in that, but it really just depends. We want to see everything.
And do much with tech companies?
Mostly, yeah. So hardware, software, combination of the two. IoT is still really big.
So Tim, you just kind of alluded, you said, at the B round or whatever, the cap table gets renewed. Can you talk more about that? And you kind of made a comment that it's a good thing for those investors, but can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so sometimes you use your B round, and I'm speaking general, to buy out everybody else. Because typically, so let's say in an A round or family money, you've got 20 or 30 people who gave you $5,000. Then you go and raise your next round, and then you got another 15 or 20 people. You got 40 people who are on your books. It's called the capitalization table. Like, it gets really complicated really quick. Everyone has their own little terms. And so typically when you're going into like a private equity or a B round, they just want to clean all that up. Like, they don't want all those people on there. So they typically either buy the people out or they give them the opportunity to do some other things. So usually, not usually, but sometimes a B round can be like a cleanup round. Yeah.
What about low-tech products, non-electronic, non-high-tech?
Yeah, so if you can prove that
Not
there's,
built in Lehigh,
what's that?
not done in Lehigh.
Yeah. So those are my favorite personally, because if it solves a real problem, then usually low tech, there's a big market for it. And it's actually easy to get those sales, right? So you can come in and just say like, look, our cost of customer acquisition is 30 cents. We know how to do this. We need $2 million to just go and buy inventory and then continue doing marketing. And we'll turn 2 million into 7 million. That's how any physical product should be pitched. Yeah.
How involved do you get in the day-to-day work of the company, or are you just kind of checking in to see how things are going? What's your involvement? I guess it probably depends on every business, it varies, but what's your preference?
So it's every individual angel has their own criteria. Typically they do what's called follow. So a bigger group will fund the thing and say, look, we're going to put in $1 million and then go get the rest of the 1.2 million from angels. So at that point, typically angels just sit back and say, cool, send me the investor update once a month, and I'll check in with you guys whenever I can. If you're doing something smaller, sometimes they'll ask for a board seat. So maybe they'll be like, hey, look, this is my industry. I know a ton about it. I'd love to be on your board. That person usually gets much more involved. But sometimes the people just get involved just because they're an investor. So they'll make phone calls or set up meetings for you. It really is very individualized on the person.
Quick questions on your reference to what does the future look like. I didn't get the definition of SAM and SOM.
Oh, so TAM is, I'll pull it up. TAM is total addressable market.
What's that?
Okay. SAM is serviceable addressable market. So that's all the people that you're going, it's like the market you're going after. Let's say, for example, you're a bed company and you could sell to storms or hospitals. Right now, your goal is to sell to them. So anybody in the world can use a bed. We're going after the hospital market. We're going after 100 bed only hospital markets, which is serviceable, obtainable. You're going to obtain all these market.
So tell us a little bit about your book.
My book is this on steroids. It's got a lot more in it. There's I brought one. But basically, in the back of the book is a bunch of pitch decks. So it actually walks you through my first pitch deck when I was raising capital, which was awful. It's in there in all its glory. And then I tell you why it's bad. And then and that was a software product. I put in a pitch deck for a physical product and put some common problems in there. And then I used a company who I helped raise capital. and they're a software, they're a medical device company. So I used 3 of the most common types of pitches, and then gave you what like things you can fix or common errors that people make. But they're all real pitches. So
So one of your slides said that if you need help, call. What does that mean?
yeah. Oops. That's it. Just contact me, email me.
For the type of help, I mean, muddling through the book on our own, or you look at it and say, well, that's a good start, I do this, or.
Yeah. So what I do is, I just love doing this. So I charge $500 just to help people. We meet about 4 to 7 times, depending on what's going on. And then what I do is you have to come to me with a pitch. I won't, like if it's not put together at some level, I have nowhere to start. So then after that, we'll meet up. The first time we chat is usually about an hour. And so I get to know what you're doing. And then what I do is help just craft the story, help you tell the problem. It's usually telling the problem better. And then the solution everybody already knows. And then it's just putting it in an order that makes sense. The order that I showed you guys is the most common order, but it's not, well, it's not really the most common. It's the most common order to tell a really compelling story. But if you're like in the medical device space, for example, it's usually better actually to start with a team than it is to start with a problem. But you're going to go team, problem, and then the rest of the slides in the order.
So the $500 would get us to the finish line.
Yeah. Or get you to a point where you can communicate the business very clearly. And somebody, like, my goal is that when you're done, you're like, I actually know how to talk about my business. So what's cool about learning to pitch, and I actually think every company should start putting together a pitch deck, is it actually teaches you how to communicate your business when you're not pitching. So you could be on the lift, or you could be somewhere or whatever. And when someone's like, so what do you do? Well, most of us jump right into the solution. That's what we do. Oh, I put together reports and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, dude, I don't really care. And you're like, oh, but, I help companies make more money. And you're like, tell me more about that. And you're like, okay. And it just puts you right into the ability to present your business. But as soon as we learn to talk about the problem we solve, it actually opens up the conversation about the solution.
You talked about getting to the second meeting. What is the second meeting?
Yeah, so the second meeting in fundraising is usually what's called due diligence. So if we look at Park City Angels, so we have a screening, actually have 2 screenings. We have the pre-screening, person comes and talks to me. I might look at their pitch deck. I just want to see what they're up to. The second meeting is this, we look at them, they pitch their business, and then at that point we decide whether or not we want to take them to our general meeting. So again, from one meeting to the next meeting to the next meeting. And then that meeting, they go into due diligence. If any of the angels are interested in potentially funding it, they'll be like, yep, put my hat in. They'll talk about it. They'll invite the entrepreneur to a meeting, or they'll just get email communication going on. And that's when they'll like, okay, send me your actual financials. Show me some customers. Who can I talk to? Like, they'll dive much deeper into the company. And those can go on for, like, our goal is 30 days, but in some organizations, it could be like 60. So recommendation, if you're raising capital or you need to start way earlier, most people will start raising capital when they're running out of money, and that's bad. Like, you need to raise capital like way before you need it. So, you had a question?
Oh, I was just gonna mention the pitch deck is a lot like a mini business plan.
Yeah, I've done those too.
Gives you kind of a jumps point.
Yeah. Can be. Yeah.
So what's trending right now with the types of the industry that's kind of up right now? Because you have phases. Some years you have certain industries that are seem hot that you've seen a lot of pitches on.
Yeah.
Your guys are investing in Parks and Games. What's going on right now?
Ad tech's been really huge.
Ad tech.
For a little while. It kind of ebbs and flows. Crypto's really big, or things that use blockchain as their backend are really popular right now. I'm interested to see, and we haven't seen any of these, like, they're called like NFTs or something. They're basically like digital, it's like crypto kitties. Yeah, they're like these, I don't know, it's weird. I'm shocked. FinTech is always huge. In Utah specifically, we get a lot of medical device companies. So somebody in digital health or, actual physical products. It's weird. We have a huge market here for physical products, but we don't usually see those on the angel side. So,
Why not?
I don't know. If you have one, come. Talk. Yeah. Yeah, so I would say those are kind of the big ones. I'm trying to think of what else. A lot of IoT stuff, a lot of integrations, a lot of similar stuff. Really what's interesting right now is like this Robinhood market, like Robinhood and Venmo and Cash App and all those things. It's a big trying to transition, or people are trying to come up with more social ways of being more financially responsible. I saw a really cool one recently. I don't know if it's gonna work, but it looked cool.
Have you had any success with anything environmental?
Like what?
I don't know.
What do you mean by
Like,
that?
you know, with the sensors are getting more and more capable, right?
Mhm.
For your smartphone, et cetera. Measuring levels of exposure that you don't normally measure or have any idea when you're in a hot spot. How about something like that?
Yeah, so again, go back to the problem. Who has it and will they pay you to solve it?
Yeah.
So the answer is I don't know, right? But like you look at like, I'm just gonna use an example, diabetes. Who has diabetes problems? You would think the person who has diabetes would wanna solve it, but they don't, right? The insurance company pays to solve diabetes. So it depends on who your customer is. And I think environmental would fit in that as well, right? Like, do I care enough to know if there's lead in my water, or is that a
How about the
silly
air you breathe?
Yeah, again, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Am I gonna, like, what do I get for paying for it? Just to know, or is it gonna do something about it?
Yeah.
Right, so I don't know. Like, I don't even wanna pay to wear a mask, right? I
And
keep
how
on
are you
harness
to
to
know
steal them.
what's bad and what's good? That's about all you can do. And then something happens, right?
Right, yeah. So again, you have to think about, like, again, whatever the problem is, who has it, are they willing to pay for it? I don't know the answer.
I've never done one like that, an environment.
Well, so I did in my other book. This is my second book. So I created a product called Compuck when I was in business school, and the idea was to better understand what's actually happening in your compost. So it's just a little IoT device. You throw it in there, and then when we went around and surveyed a bunch of composters, they were like, "How much would this be?" And we're like, "I don't know, like $100, maybe like $5 a month." And they're like, "Composting's a hobby for me. Like I don't really care about it. I just do it." And we're like, "Oh yeah, okay." So it was easy for us to be like, "That's a dumb idea. Like no one's gonna pay for it." And we literally spent I think like $25 and we figured that out. Like we spray painted a smoke detector black, and then we built an app and like a fake app tool, and we're like, "Here, just play with it." And they're like, "Meh." I'm like, "Cool, next." It's an awesome experiment.
I love that you used to, and you still do, I believe, talk about killing ideas.
Mhm.
Explain a little bit about your experience with that. Why?
Yeah, totally. So that, just like that complex story, I actually love testing ideas. I don't like spending money on idea development. I made a practice, and Bryce knows, of trying to test ideas out under $500. Most of us have $500, so we can get it pretty quickly. And so there's lots of businesses that can be created with $500, and you would know if you had customers before that. And so I still challenge myself to come up with ideas that are low cost to implement. That's why software is so nice, right? It's cheap, as long as you know how to do it.
So you were telling me about software, like no code software, low code to
Yeah.
start testing apps. And you mentioned earlier, what are some of those tools out there that people can play with if they're not coders?
Yeah, so there's a tool out there called bubble.io. I am a huge fan of it. I built 4 apps with it already. I have one coming out soon. And honestly, as a hobby project, like to actually code something that does exactly what you want is amazing. Like if you're trying to do some kind of new technology like augmented reality or something, not gonna work. But if you need a tool that does something, it's honestly the best thing that I've seen. And it doesn't take that long to learn. Like it's cool. It's really cool.
What was your software company?
So I had my first company I sold, which is called Cooley Fitness, is an online fitness platform. And then it was kind of like what Peloton is now. So online videos, updated every day. And then it was like all gamified in the back end. And this is actually what I started my entrepreneurship journey in. So we started that in 2010. Like video equipment was super expensive. You needed like a $5,000 computer. Now you can do all the rendering on your phone. Like you don't need anything, right? So the thing that killed that company, truthfully, one of the guys in the mill actually helped me start it. Over there. But anyways, it was credit card processing. So like at the time to implement like processing was really, really complicated. We spent like a month or a month and a half trying to implement it and couldn't figure it out. And now Stripe exists. It's like literally a line of code and you're ready to go. So anyways, so I took that idea and then I kept building on the concept of it, but I converted it into like an online, just a blog, like a fitness blog, grew that and then sold it. My second company, so we took all these gamification concepts. My background's in health, so I spent 6 years doing sports medicine stuff. And I was like, what if we could create like a way of using video games to encourage people to walk? And so we built an idea called Step Bets, where Bryce and I met. And so we got a working version of it. It was pretty cool actually. And then we got some funding from Zions Bank. And then we tried to build it. And this is where I learned to raise capital earlier. So there's a dichotomy of thought. There's the lean business methodology, which is go as lean as possible, as far as you can go. Well, that just runs you out of money eventually, right? Like unless you can get sales. But in something like what we did, we just got someone to give us money. Like we should have just gone and raised more money like that same week. And I didn't know that at the time. And so, because we were really practicing this lean methodology. So we launched, I think it was 5 games. We had people walking, hundreds of miles. No one would believe that people would walk and play video games. We launched our products. Pokemon Go came out. They made 14 million. We did not. So ended up shutting that down. And then other software stuff. These other things that I have are just tools that I use. Like I have a free tool for making one-pagers that you can send out to investors and things like that. So that's kind of my background.
Did your hats ever take off?
My what? Oh, no, it didn't. I've tried a lot of ideas. The hats is on the first one.
I think this is good, Tim. I mean, to show like what you.
Oh, it's not up here.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah. I think it's really good to see like a lot of times we read, people starting something and they don't see the backstory of how many startups they've done or how many ideas they tested along the way. So I think it's really refreshing to see, like you're talking about some of the things that you've done, some done better than others, the hat one, get into that, but other stuff.
Yeah, I'll go through them all.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just this is real life, like almost all entrepreneurs. It's not the flashy. You see the stuff on Fortune magazine. That's a few steps away. That's after a few other things they've tried. So I think this is really I think informative, right? This is the real deal.
Yeah, I'm honest about it. So going through these, so the quilting company started off as a wedding quilt company, basically like putting like a wedding invitation on a quilt. We couldn't figure out, so we got a sale. That's why we kept going with it, but we couldn't actually fulfill it. It was just a joke at the time. And then my mom figured out actually how to make it, so we built one. We would go to wedding shows and stuff, and people wouldn't buy it, and we're like, what in the world? Like, couldn't figure that out. And some guy was like, well, why don't you color it in? So like, okay. So then we created another product called coloring quilts after that. That one did okay, but it wasn't selling the way that I wanted. And then I was like, Mom, we need like a tool to like capture people. So we made one and ended up selling that product. So that product is now like a deck of cards. So that first company pivoted like major pivots 3 times. The second one is called Blitz Reader. It was what if you could, like, so I don't read that much. So I was like, what if I could speed read every website on the planet? I was like, that would be awesome. I saw this video, some guy who did something similar, and I was like, that would be really rad. So I paid a guy like $150 or something. He built me a working prototype, and we were like, this doesn't work. Like, it's going to take so much more software development to make this work, like with natural language processing and all kinds of weird stuff. And I was like, I don't want to waste time on that. Capstars was a product that you could take a baseball hat and then like kind of display it on the wall. Really, really cool product. For some reason, still don't know why people would not buy it. Like, we would give them to people and they wouldn't buy another one. And most people who have hats have 50 hats. And some hats are like really, really, like they mean things to people, but we could not figure out why people wouldn't buy it. It was the weirdest product. That's the one I told you that I sold. This is the game company. And then this product, so it's Plus 5 was a deodorant company that I launched. It cost like $450. And it was targeted towards gamers, and I wanted to see if there was a market for it. So I created a Kickstarter, threw it out there. It raised like, I don't know, like $1,500. But what I learned was if you're going to crowdfund, you need a higher ticket price item. Deodorant's too cheap for crowdfunding. So $3, $4 product. Like, you need something that's a minimum of 20 for crowdfunding to actually work. And so it didn't work. Well, it kind of worked. We had huge traffic, like tons and tons. One article had like 1,000 comments or something crazy. Like, it was awesome, but ended up shutting it down.
We have a question here.
Yep.
Is there a way to distinguish good VCs from sharks?
Oh, that is a question. I don't think there is, but in the due diligence, not only are they interviewing you, but you're interviewing them. So, like, if you just feel like someone's trying to take something, I have never seen that. I don't know. I'm sure there are, but like, people are usually giving your money because they don't need it. You know, like, this is, for especially in angel investing, it's a hobby to them. Like, it's something that they're very passionate about. They knew, like, so for example, I screen all the deals for Park City Angels because I want people like me who had no access to have access. So if you're a Utah-based company, please apply. I will meet with you. Like, I didn't have that when I was going through the ranks, and I want to be that for people. So the people who are doing angel investing are that same mentality. Like, look, we didn't have somebody helping us get started usually. You know, somebody came in and gave us $100,000 and it changed our whole thing. And now I have the ability to give back. And that's kind of the way they give back. They want to make more money, but most of them lose all the money that they do. It's almost charity. So I don't think they're sharks.
I've got a gentleman that's got incredible, I have tasted it, but everybody that has incredible hot sauce.
Okay.
And that, and he's connected with a person that is a broker for Costco.
Okay.
So I think it would be like, the money would be so that he could get the label, get everything product so that they could pitch it to Costco.
Yeah. So physical products are hard only because they're inventory-based products. Same with seasonal products. Seasonal products are tough too, from an angel investment point of view. What you have to do typically is you have to change the terms of the deal. So if you ever watch Shark Tank, you know how Kevin O'Leary's like, look, I want 7% royalty from here until forever. Like, the risk on just buying inventory is so high that you have to make the terms favorable for any type of investor. That's actually why loans are better, right? Like, and I know not everybody can get loans, but it's much better to get a loan for a physical product company until you get to the point when you really need like $2 million to buy manufacturing equipment. Because you're like, look, we just can't keep up. It's easy for us to sell this thing. Right? Like, but when you're in that bridge of like, yeah, we made, $50,000 last year. Cool. Right? But we did $1 million last year. Okay, now we're having a real conversation. Like one of my clients did $5 million last year and still having that same difficult conversation because physical projects are hard for angels. They'd be like, just go get a loan. It works better. Yeah.
Yes, we're done.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody.
Yeah, just know that you can get this video on our YouTube channel, that's SLCC on YouTube. So you can rewatch it there. If you signed up online, Meetup, I put a link there. If you signed up with, what did you use?
Constant Contact, there's a link there too.
There's a link there too. So
if you didn't hear that out there on the internet, so you can just rewatch this out there. Same YouTube channel. Thanks, Tim, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great presentation. I'm gonna pick up the book. Do you have it on Audible yet?
Not yet. I need to get a passcode for the weekend so I can come.
There,
Yeah, there you go.
There's a podcast studio at the mill.
podcast studio here. So the mill's a great place again to do if you need to have a space, a co-working space. The SBC Utah Small Business Development Center is also one of the co-sponsors of this. And if you have any questions on if you want to meet with an advisor, we also meet with a lot of people one-on-one. We're funded by the SBA, Governor's Office of Economic Development, and the host institution. So we help people as they are fundraising, as they're getting ready to go to market. And we just have connections throughout the valley as well. So this is people like Tim to kind of send you to as you get into more deeper things. So we, again, we see a lot of people and help them in different ways. But this is, if you have any questions, feel free to just reach out again to Tim here, who spoke today, as well as folks here at the mill or at the Utah SBDC. We'd love to help you. So thanks again. We'll see you next time.
What's the YouTube title?